The Nerdcast Empire is on the air. It is Monday, June the 30th, and it is time for another edition of the Nerdcast News Report. I am Matt in the studio. Great to have you along with us. We are back for another news podcast. We're going to be talking about subtitled anime and whether that's going to become the norm. We're going to review Night of Champions very briefly, and then we're going to talk a little bit about the streaming home for Hell Teacher Nube, which is coming out. That's been announced, and we'll be wrapping things up, as always, with the Empire Express. Joining me in studio on this Monday evening is Mike. Mike, how's it going?
Oh, it's going. We are pretty much done with the spring season, moving on to summer. Have to figure out what shows I plan on watching as I scramble to watch more spring shows so I can say I hit a good amount of those. But yeah, talking anime, talking wrestling. Let's do it.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of shows that I have watched, some of that are coming up again. I think a couple of Cuckoos has another season that's coming out starting next week.
I feel like summer is loaded. Rent
a Girlfriend, season 4, for those who just hate themselves. I haven't even finished season 3, but I guess I need to do that. City TV, the animation, I think is another big one. That's the same people that did Nichijou, doing that one. So a lot of really good stuff. And maybe we get into next week, we'll talk about some of the shows from the summer that people probably need to pay attention to because, like Mike said, it is a very loaded season coming up. But just a few light news items on this Monday evening. And the first one I wanted to start off with was just kind of interesting to me because it was a story written based on an interview with Jason DeMarco, who we've talked about on this podcast before. He's kind of the brain power behind Toonami and has been in the industry for a very long time. So typically his opinions carry some weight behind it. And the article was on CBR.com, and it basically talked about how Toonami has started to lean in a little bit more on subtitled anime. And it's one of those things that over the years there have been attempts to bring subtitled anime over. Certainly, like the earliest examples were even back on like International Channel that had subtitled anime.
Not all of them.
Not all of them. Some of them had no subtitles, but it was, really just in the past for the hardcore people. But we live in a time now where people watch TV, regular TV, with the closed captioning or the subtitles on, whether it's just not to miss anything, whether it's because you're multitasking and you're trying to read and really grasp what's going on, whatever the reason may be, it's becoming more common. And even so much so as there have been some major motion pictures that have come out in theaters that have been subtitled that people don't have any qualms about going to see in a foreign language. And it's kind of led to the point that DeMarco is making, and they're making in this article, is, are we kind of at that turning point with televised anime in the United States that we will begin to see more of it sub only? Obviously, if you have a Crunchyroll, if you have a High Dive, you already have that option to watch it sub only and in Japanese. But we kind of felt, especially like Toonami was kind of that last haven of the mainstream. We want this to be in English so that you can bring in as many viewers. But maybe that's going away. And curious to get your thoughts as to, is this a trend, or are we going to maybe see fewer and fewer English dubs as subtitled releases become just more widely accepted?
I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I think from a simplicity standpoint, why not? There is some cost saving there. You're able to churn it out even faster, and in a period where we expect things day after, week after, no longer. I mean, why not? The article does kind of mention that the gap in viewership that used to exist between dub and subtitles has dwindled quite a bit, and they mentioned some of their titles that they have aired subtitled on Adult Swim, Toonami, Ninja Kamui, Rick and Morty the anime,
which is interesting.
I don't even know what to make of that. Uzumaki and Lazarus. So, I mean, these are big titles that they certainly expected to do well on Adult Swim that they've aired with subtitles. I just think I don't me personally, I'm fine either way. There was probably a time where I would have trended much more heavily toward dub just because of the ease of watching it and not having to read and pay attention to what's on the screen simultaneously. I just think you kind of get used to it, and then next thing you know, you don't really miss the dub so much. There are a few that really good dubs that I am glad I watched, but otherwise I could take or leave it.
And the Rick and Morty, the anime one, was really the most interesting one to me, even though that's not necessarily a show that would be high on my list, because it is literally an Adult Swim property that has been outgone and been made into an anime, and now is coming back. And you would think if there was ever a show that was a no-brainer that they were going to dub, it would be a show that started with them.
Yeah.
But they even decided, no, we're not going to put a dub on that. We're going to stick with just the subtitle version. I think we have talked extensively on this podcast about the challenges that Crunchyroll's had, and you start to wonder. Now, obviously, Crunchyroll's owned by Sony, so they're not going away, but you do wonder to some degree if a lot of the Japanese anime companies can see this as an opportunity to say, we don't need an American distributor anymore. There's not going to be a physical release because nobody releases anything physically anymore, hardly. So if we're not worried about a physical release and they're okay with us just throwing subtitles on it, why do we need an American distributor? Why can't we just do it in Japan and cut out the middleman and potentially save some costs that way?
Absolutely. I think it also keeps them from having to deal with what in the past couple of years has been a more aggressive union on our side as far as trying to force these projects to go union. There was just a huge hubbub about Genshin Impact and the voice actors there who weren't union but were like refusing to work essentially in solidarity to SAG-AFTRA, and that turned into a huge debacle. So I think if you're a foreign company, any way you can kind of avoid some of that train wreck and the cost involved there, why not?
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And for the companies over here that are going to stay in the business, again, it is speed. It is the chance to have this stuff come out the day of. In theory, shows that air on Saturday in Japan could air Saturday night on Toonami in subtitled form. You don't have to worry about the logistics because they have done some shows where they've done simultaneous release dub and sub where they clearly have collaborated. Actors have gone to Japan, whatever the situation may be. But again, that's expensive. I can tell you firsthand that plane tickets, even just domestically, are expensive. Imagine flying a whole cast or several people over to Japan right now. Probably not very cost effective. But now you don't have to do that necessarily. You can basically just have the subtitle version be edited in the morning, and in some cases can be done in advance because you have the scripts, so you can just translate and then maybe make some tweaks after you get the actual line reads, and then it's done, and you can have it on American TV that evening. It's interesting because it feels like, I don't know if Netflix is really the one to credit for this trend as far as showing more of their shows, foreign language shows coming over, subtitled. You know, it feels like that has been a growing trend outside of the anime world that has now made it, I don't want to say cool, but has made it acceptable for just the average person to watch with captions, with subtitles, to where now that doesn't feel weird at all, even if it's something that, even if it's, you know, WWE wrestling, or even if it's just some regular show, like you're more likely to put the captions on. It
makes you wonder. I think of like with Netflix, a show like Blue Box, where they had trailers with the English dub on it, but the episodes weren't on Netflix. All they had for the longest time were the subtitled episodes, and then they slowly started drip feeding, I think, the dub. But as someone trying to keep up with seasonal anime, I wasn't going to wait for it. So I jumped on to the subtitle release, and it was fine. I had no problem watching it. I think the other thing, and it's kind of the convergence between getting it out as quickly as possible and cost saving, is that every week or two we see a new story talking about whatever pirate site is getting more traffic than all of the legitimate sites. Clearly, the public has spoken, and they've said that they're totally okay with the level of product they're getting from illegitimate means. What's my incentive if I'm one of the production companies to shell out more money to localize or in some people's estimation, improve a product if the public doesn't care whether it's improved or localized or if any additional work is put on it. Just get it out there with some text at the bottom of the screen and people want it.
Yeah, I think there is something to that for sure. And I think, with the first step to me was the lack of physical releases. The fact that you don't have a ton of DVD, Blu-ray releases anymore. There are still some, and there are still companies that are doing it really well, but they are much less. I mean, this isn't the ADV era where everything got a release no matter what. And because of that, you do feel a little less inclined. Like, well, we don't really need a dub if we're not putting it out on Blu-ray. We can just throw the subtitle version in a file, and we're going to lose the rights to it at some point anyway. It's going to bounce around between services. So, but you made a good point talking about seasonal anime. If you are the person that's trying to watch 5 shows a season, you want to just watch them as they come out so you can check them off the list and move on. You don't want to be in a situation where it's like, well, I've been watching, this show and it's episode 7 in the Japanese and they just put the first episode of the dub on there. Well, maybe you're going to watch the first episode of the dub. You really like it. Now you just watch the next 6 episodes in Japanese and now you're caught up again.
Well, I think, too, like a show like, say, Apothecary Diaries. Mm. I've been watching the dub of that, so I'm a few weeks behind. And I'm not super active on social media in, like, the anime sphere, but you still can't avoid, like, Facebook just showing you some post that's spoiling an episode 2 or 3 episodes ahead. Like, there's no way around that. Imagine if you really were plugged into the community and people were talking about these shows all the time. It puts you at a disadvantage when everyone else is watching the Subtitled the week of.
That's a great point, because the social media algorithm doesn't care that you're watching 6 weeks behind.
No.
Like, it's going to just spit it out and you're just stuck with it. I mean, that happens a lot. People complain about, like what we're about to talk about next, the Saudi Arabia pay-per-view for WWE, and it's like, yeah, I was planning on watching that in the evening when I got home, and here you go on, and here's all the results, or you'll go to Netflix's page. If I've heard about this internationally, and there'll be a screenshot from the event on their page that spoils a match or something like that. So,
which is more frustrating because it's like not so much with Night of Champions, but some of their other shows, you may not have the opportunity to watch it streamed live. It's like what Netflix internationally did SmackDown live, but we don't get SmackDown through Netflix here in the States, so they might be spoiling something that we're just not able to watch until USA airs it.
Yeah, for sure. So it's interesting. This whole trend of subtitled anime becoming more normal. It'll be interesting to see over the next 6 months to a year kind of what happens with that and whether there's any pushback if we start seeing more of it, if people start pushing back against it.
I think the point you made earlier as far as the lack of physical releases kind of being the catalyst, I think that's spot on, because anime is no longer a product. It's a service. So if you're not selling me a product, you're offering me a service that so many other people can do, whether it's legitimate or not, but they can do it just as well. Whereas the bootleg DVD they sell me might not be the same quality as the real one. You basically allowed pirators to bridge the gap of quality because you don't offer physical releases. And if you do, it's not in a timely manner.
And I will say, coming from that era of the bootleg DVDs of anime, they were never as good a quality as a legitimate release. Yeah. So, and probably never would be, just because there's just the technology's just, even now, it's not cost effective to make it work. You're selling it for the cheap. So clearly you don't, and again, most people are going to stream it anyway. But yeah, I think that's the big, inflection point there. But it'll be interesting to see what happens and whether that trend continues or will there be pushback from fans. And if there is, we'll probably hear about it with Toonami, because that's kind of where it would start. Let's jump to what we've alluded to, the Night of Champions premium live event. It's not one I think either one of us got to watch. You got to watch a little bit of it.
Very little, yes.
I did not get to watch it at all. I was gone. But I think both of us kept up enough with it to kind of talk a little bit about it. And it seemed like a perfectly fine event. I know there were some people online that were critical of some of the match results. that's always going to happen to some degree. Sure. It does feel like sometimes the Saudi pay-per-views become extra critical of the match results because it is, the same people who don't care and don't like the scorecard people who won't run a scorecard for them are the same people online complaining that Cody Rhodes beat Randy Orton to win King of the Ring or that CM Punk showed up at all or that, Raquel Rodriguez, who they probably didn't even think belonged on the event, they're now mad that she lost to Rhea Ripley because the match was amazing, and these people have just been sleeping on Raquel Rodriguez this whole time. And what really stood out to you, because again, I thought it was fine, nothing like terribly memorable, but nothing terrible, I don't think, at least from what I've read. What were your general thoughts?
Yeah, I guess kind of first off the bat, like, I kind of miss when King of the Ring was just kind of a thing. Like, it wasn't another ticket to a title match, because I feel like it's an opportunity to elevate somebody, but here we have Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes in the finals.
Right.
Like, I feel like we're missing an opportunity to let someone else shine a bit. Yeah, I mean, Raquel's always been good. Super happy that Karrion Kross got to be on a premium live event.
Yeah.
I had hoped he would have won, but I don't think you're going to have Sami Zayn lose in Saudi Arabia. So, yeah, well, hopefully they still do something with Kross moving forward. Yes. And this wasn't just like, hey, man, here's your one opportunity. Have fun. Happy for Solo Sikoa.
Yeah.
I feel like he's been doing some good work lately now that they've given him somewhat of a personality. Obviously, having Hikuleo show up is super cool, too.
Good old Tala Tonga.
Yeah. I mean, it's a name. It is a name.
That's what? That's all you need, man. That's all you need is a name.
Otherwise, I don't know. I mean, I wasn't super amped to watch this. I'm never a fan of Asuka losing. And it sounds like Cena and Punk delivered as well as it could have. And, I kind of tuned it in when some of the nonsense started occurring, and that was entertaining enough. And yeah, let's just move on to the next one.
I think there was some frustration with the Punk Cena match because from what it sounded like, compared to a lot of the other Cena matches since he's come back, this was actually a good match. That Punk was able to actually give him a good match. And then you had the shenanigans at the end, which were almost to be expected because Punk wasn't going to lose cleanly. Rollins had to be involved somehow. Cena was likely going to retain.
And fitting, you had Rollins essentially cost Punk. I mean, that just keeps their thing that's never going to end going.
Yeah, so I mean, that's good. And obviously, we'll see what the fallout is starting tonight. Actually, Raw is airing as we speak on Netflix because WWE is taping SmackDown tonight to give everybody Friday off. We've already had a title change tonight on Raw. We'll leave that for you to look up so we don't spoil in case somebody's listening.
R-Truth is the new world champion.
Yeah, that would be amazing. In case you're listening to this before you go watch Raw, we won't spoil that, but there has been one title change tonight and a couple of matches made, I think, for Evolution as well. So that'll be interesting to see how that shakes out. Yeah, I'm maybe the two people I'm most happy for, as you mentioned, were Solo Sikoa and Karrion Kross. Kross got some new merch today, I saw, so that's a good sign. I would think maybe we're getting closer to him doing something meaningful and consistent. And Solo Sikoa is a dude that people hated, and rightfully so, because he showed up and was unbeatable and had no personality and was basically the muscle in a group that had a bunch of muscle that it wasn't really necessary and it wasn't really believable. And now, he's just kind of a goof. And that's believable. And because of that, he's now endeared himself to the people. And it's just going to make Jacob Fatu a bigger deal.
It's bad, but you feel like initially he was a Vince McMahon creation. Where it's just like, oh, you're a Samoan. You're really tough. You don't have to do anything else. And then when clearly that wasn't working and he never felt like anything, any kind of legitimate threat or, you can say what you want about the star power of Jimmy Uso, but compared to Jay, but Solo Sikoa was
another level down.
Yeah. And now it's like, dude, just relax, be yourself, be ridiculous, and it works.
Yeah, it does. So I'm hoping that their group can do something meaningful? Are we headed toward war games with that group potentially? That's a possibility because they have announced that it is going to be war games again in San Diego for the Survivor Series. So I have to assume that we've got a lot of options, obviously. So we'll kind of see how that shakes out. But the Saudi event was fine. Obviously, it went better than SmackDown did the night before when they had a 30-minute power outage in the building. And basically, if you watch the SmackDown that aired as it aired in the U.S., they had to use the handheld cameras for the Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton segment.
Oh, interesting.
Because the hard cameras had no power. So it looks like it's shot by fans from, even though they had good audio. So kudos to them for figuring it out. But it was a little bit challenging, and those things can happen. But again, if you were watching the tape version, it was a little bit less noticeable than it would have been the live version that just disappeared for 30 minutes. But yeah, I mean, it was fine. I am interested to see where we go from here because obviously we've got just a couple of weeks before Evolution and Saturday night's main event. Great American Bash is coming up with NXT. We'll be interested to see how that all shakes out. NXT's been doing really good numbers again. We haven't talked about them a lot, but ratings have been really solid for it. Like,
it's been a good show.
It's been a good show. It is. I still think too, even with the improved Raw and SmackDown, it is the most consistently good wrestling show on television.
Yeah, I think it still, in large part, feels like NXT. It doesn't feel as bloated as Raw or SmackDown do. Even with Raw being 2.5 hours, which is much better than 3, and SmackDown going back to 2 hours, we'll see what it looks like. But yeah, there's something about NXT.
And that'll be this week, so which is probably good timing if you're doing this double taping to not have to tape 3 hours worth of SmackDown after almost 3 hours worth of Raw. That might be a little rough on the crowd, but who I believe are in Pittsburgh, as it turns out, I think tonight. So,
The Void.
The Void, as it turns out, we found out last night, which reminds me, a good time to talk about, don't forget to check out our website, nerdcastempire.com. Of course, check out the Hard Rock Empire. We had a great episode last night, really great music. It was a really strong week. We'll be back again on Sunday night. We will not have a podcast on Friday on 4th of July. Enjoy your 4th of July if you're here in the U.S. If you're not in the U.S., happy Friday. We'll be back on Sunday, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, with another episode of the Hard Rock Empire. The music of June the 13th will be on the slate for this Sunday night. Let's get to our final news story, and just a small news story, but I thought it was kind of interesting. The news came out that Hell Teacher Nube, Jigoku Sensei Nube, the new version of that, which is a show that I'm certainly interested in checking out because the original was so classic. They have announced where it's going to be streaming, and what's interesting to me is it appears, according to the Anime News Network article that I have posted in the chats, is that in the U.S. and Canada, that's going to be airing on the It's Anime YouTube channel, which is
something I was not aware existed.
Yeah, because when I first read the story, I thought it was Netflix's YouTube channel, but it appears to not be. It's just something called It's Anime, which is where the trailer on the story is housed, so you can take a look at that. But interesting that it appears to be going to, I guess you could say, free television, if you will. It's going to be on YouTube. That's pretty exciting, and it's not going to be on another streaming service that I don't have. But just general thoughts on, are we going to see YouTube become more of a destination for some of these shows?
That's a good question. The It's Anime YouTube channel is the YouTube channel of the Remo distributing company. I wasn't super familiar with them, but just kind of looking at some of the shows they've licensed throughout their time, they have, and on their YouTube channel, no less, you got Kochikame, Reborn, My Little Monster, Your Forma, Yakitate Japan. A lot of people in the comments weren't too excited because they're afraid it's going to get the same kind of subtitle treatment that Nokotan got.
Oh.
Which evidently did not have good subtitles.
Did not. At least at first. It might have gotten better as the show went on, but there was a lot of accusations they were using AI subtitles for it.
Yeah, and so according to the Anime News Network, some of the other anime that have been licensed by Remo include the 1997 Berserk, only in Latin America, strangely enough. Let's see what else. Hajime no Ippo in Latin America, Looking for the Full Moon, Love Live School Idol project since 2024. That's weird.
That is weird.
No-Katan, like I mentioned. Squid Girl.
Yomushi Pedal.
Yeah, some of the Yomushi Pedal, apparently. So, it's a thing. Yeah, I did check out their YouTube channel just to see that it actually did exist. So, we'll see how it goes. The opening for Hell Teacher Nube is quality. I mean, no reason to feel too negative about it yet.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see because, obviously it's some of the shows that you listed there were not produced by these guys. They clearly have picked up the licenses as they've expired. So I don't know, what their involvement with this show compared to like No-Katan, if that's apples and oranges or if they are kind of lined up in the same way, if they're responsible for both. But yeah, I mean, that's a fair question. But yeah, it's one of those shows that's always been on the list of shows I wanted to check out. And now with a new series coming out, I think it'll be really cool to check it out. If you're not in the U.S. or Canada and you are interested, it'll be on Netflix in Asian territories, except in Japan and in China. There's also a few other locations, depending on where you are. Check out the article on Anime News Network. It'll tell you where you can find this show. But
hopefully someone gets a hold of the original series and brings it over here.
Yeah, it'd be a perfect time to do that. If people get interested in this one, why not? That would be great. And, there are certainly some companies over here that have done a good job in license rescuing shows, so it might be a good time for that to happen. And of course, it should be mentioned, we didn't mention it as a news article, but Anime Expo is this weekend in Los Angeles. Anime Midwest is this weekend in Chicago. So if there are any big announcements to come out of those, that doesn't happen as often as it used to, but if there are, we can pass those along next week. But
Nube will have a panel at Anime Expo.
Okay, there you go. So, and it looks like a good cast. I mean, there are definitely some names on there that I recognize. And anytime I recognize the Japanese names, that probably means they've been in some big stuff. So, if you're headed to Los Angeles this weekend, it looks like the weather's going to be nice. Just got the email with their weather forecast, going to be in the 70s. That would be nice because it's been gross here. It's not as hot as it was when I was in Philadelphia last week, and it was 100 degrees, but it's still gross. And I would definitely take some 70s right about now. But really cool. We'll definitely check it out and let you know. And obviously, if there's any quality issues, we'll pass those along as well. But that's going to wrap up the news stories. Let's head to the Empire Express. Are you ready to wrap this up?
Let's go.
Legendary Japanese rock band TM Network has its first ever #1 digital ranking with a song released originally 37 years ago. The classic song Beyond the Time topped the charts from June 16th to the 22nd after being used again in the Mobile Suit Gundam G-Quux. Where does the song rank all time?
It's an awesome song. TM Network is awesome. I never saw Char's Counterattack, or I haven't up to this point. So my first interaction with the song was actually Lunacy's cover of it that they did for the Origin. Both are amazing, and to me, it's just another cool callback that G-Quux has done to the original Gundam. I definitely need to sit down and watch this show now.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, looks like we're getting some more dubbed Detective Conan. TMS Entertainment announced this week that certain episodes of the anime will stream on Crunchyroll and Netflix beginning July 3rd, including a new English dub. Surprised to see it being dubbed again?
Yeah, I am. I'm shocked. It's just been rolling along. Obviously, the Funimation at one point tried to dub it. It was a good dub, but it just never really caught on, and therefore they stopped dubbing it and then stopped releasing it altogether. It's been streaming on Crunchyroll. I'm curious to see who's in the dub, and I'm curious to see what episodes they're dubbing. Is it the stuff that's coming out now? Is it certain arcs of the show? They didn't really make it clear, so I'm curious. I mean, Detective Conan is great. It's just way, way too long.
Yeah.
An avid Pokemon trading card game fan is selling his collection of cards, including 67 one-of-a-kind cards priced at $9 million. Does that price seem crazy to you?
What cards are one of a kind? Do they really only print one of certain cards? That seems insane. But no, I think the Illustrator Pikachu card, I think it was that Logan Paul had, that was a stupidly expensive card. I don't understand any of it. Even as someone who likes Pokemon, I don't get the card game and the insanity around it, the scalpers, the prices. I don't even know, man. It's insane. The Japanese rock band Tokyo has announced its decision to disband this week. One of the members had committed multiple, quote, compliance violations in the past. Are you surprised by the news?
Unfortunately, no. Tokyo, of course, was one of the acts that worked for Johnny's, which had multiple sexual assault and sexual violations that came up that basically caused the organization to have to rebrand. But they'd already lost one band member who had been involved in some sort of incident with an underage girl. And they didn't say what these compliance violations are, but unfortunately, you don't think of the best with this situation. So it sounds like the other two members of the band are going to be able to continue to work with the company, but it sounds like as far as them being Tokyo, this is the end, and it's kind of sad because they were good. Microsoft is saying goodbye to the 30-year feature on its operating systems, the infamous blue screen of death. It will be replaced by the black screen of death, which will not have a frowny face. It will also have a system stop code and a description of any faulty drivers that caused the crash. Any last words for the blue screen of death?
Yeah, supposedly this new screen is going to make it easier for IT professionals and advanced users to troubleshoot whatever it is that went wrong with the system. I'm not sure that I like the fact that it otherwise just looks like the screen that runs when your computer's updating.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem all that great to me. Whatever it is, it's still a screen of death. That's one issue I have. And the other issue is, through all these changes they're making, can they please quit making me go through kind of the tail end of the setup again, where I tell them how I want my files saved and I don't want Xbox Game Pass. And there's that weird end of setup that every time the computer updates, it's like, hey, you need to do this again. Why? I don't want to use Edge as my default browser. Quit trying to sucker me into that.
Yeah.
I don't know. There are other quality of life features that rank higher than getting rid of the blue screen of death.
It's very true. Unfortunately, all those other things make the money probably.
Yeah,
so
I'm guessing.
We're not going to get rid of those. But RIP to the blue screen of death. I do think there was some value in it, just like Mike said, for just to knowing that something went wrong instead of thinking your computer's updating possibly. But that is now going away, and we are now going away on this Monday evening. Thank you so much for listening to our Nerdcast News Report. You're all caught up on your nerdy news to start your week. A reminder, we won't be here on Friday because it is the 4th of July here in the United States. We'll be back on Sunday with another episode of the Hard Rock Empire. It's the music of June the 13th. And it will be hopefully another good week. If we had a good week, make sure you listen to last night's episode. A lot of really good stuff. Definitely check it out. A big thanks to Stoveleg Media for their continued support of our podcast. Big thanks to Mike as well for joining me. And a big thanks to you for listening whenever and wherever you are listening. We'll be back with you on Sunday. Happy 4th to everybody here in the States. And until then, don't forget to join the Empire, the Nerdcast Empire.